Go ahead.
Call this meeting, special meeting, to order at 4:06. And we will turn it over to the chief to tell us what we're dealing with.
Okay, so this is a special meeting called due to the unfortunate event of our ambulance 858, as it's known as, was involved in a collision near Surrey, BC, on the early morning hours of October 11th. And that has resulted in a loss of one of our ambulances. It's placed us into a position that we're down one ambulance, and the difficulties that has with transporting patients all the way to the hospital from this point forwards, and leaving our community without ambulance transport abilities unless it comes up from the county. I've contacted North Whatcom Fire, which is the Blaine, Custer, Samiamu area, for a possible reserve apparatus, and also Fire District number 7 to see if they could loan us an apparatus in the interim of us replacing the ambulance that we had lost. So I would like to introduce Terry and Georgina Matthey. Georgina was the patient that was being transported. She is currently here at this meeting today. So she was just released from the hospital and she's doing well as far as I can tell, and that she's telling us as well. So I'd like to acknowledge that she is here at this meeting today, and we have a number of guests in the room and a number of guests online too. So that's where we're here. We're here to talk about potentially the surrounding information regarding the accident, but also going over a replacement ambulance that I have found through Medics, which is out of Hughes Fire Equipment, and going through that and the cost of that ambulance as well, and then the use of capital reserves to purchase that ambulance. Now, this is above and beyond at this point. I think the process with the adjuster seeing our ambulance, the adjuster has two options. The adjuster, we have to reach 75% of what we have agreed upon value, which is $165,000 for a replacement ambulance. So 75% of that is $123,750. The damage to our apparatus would have to reach at least $123,750 for them to decide to total 858. If it reaches $100,000, they have the right to re-chassis 858 and repair the box, the patient compartment area. Now, we've taken pictures, we've taken video. All the information has been passed on to our insurance company, along with the services that were involved on the Canadian side, which is Argo Emergency Services, I think LTD. It was their vehicle that was involved in the collision, and we've passed that on to our insurance company. So since then, I've been every day with our insurance company, getting them information, getting them photos, et cetera, et cetera. So that subrogation process, so their ICBC, which is the coverage that we would assume that Argo has in Canada, they may also have private insurance coverage. So I've asked our insurance company to check into that as well. But the subrogation process is our insurance company would settle with us, and then they would go into proceedings with ICBC and potential private insurance in Canada, which could take months and months and months and months, potentially even years, to try to come to a formidable solution for that recovery. So we have an option. If they total the ambulance, then we have the potential of getting $165,000 to go towards the purchase of this ambulance, and or continuing with the replacement of our 1991 ambulance. So that's where we're at. The other option is that they choose to repair 858, the damage to that vehicle, put a new chassis underneath it, bend the box back to where it needs to be, repair the box, and give it back to us. If they come up with a number that is less than 75% of the value of a replacement. We also have a gurney to be thinking about, the power load system in back of that ambulance, which Georgina was connected into. That system that she slides into is potentially between $20,000 and $30,000. So I have contacted Stryker, the organization Stryker, who provides our gurneys and that load system. That has been emailed up to the accident investigation team at Stryker. So they're going to look at the damage, the pictures that I've sent them of 858. They're going to assess whether or not they're going to come out and do an assessment on that load system. If they choose not to do an assessment on that load system, then it is a write-off, and that cost to get a new load system has to be put into the 75% number. Does that make sense? So if it's $90,000 and now I get told that they cannot take that load system out of our old ambulance and put it into a new one because of the torquing or the damage to it, then that would get added into that. And that gets us up to the 110, 115, 120, whatever it be, price range towards potentially the 75% value to have it written off. So that's where we're at. So I'll take any questions from the commission at this point.
Certain talk of rental, was there what the difference?
Speak low.
So no rentals. This would be a loaner from North Whatcom or Ferndale. And that comes with insurance coverage in and of itself. So if we get a loaner from North Whatcom or Ferndale to give us the 2 ambulance capability, so we can take people all the way to the hospital. Because right now we have to rendezvous because I can't take our ambulance away from Point Roberts to go down to the hospital. So if we get duplicate calls, meaning we get one call and then 10 minutes later we get a secondary call here in Point Roberts. If we transport, can you shut that door, please? If we transport all the way to the hospital, we have no ambulance to respond to the next call here in Point Roberts. So that's why our transfer would have to happen at Checkpoint Bravo, which is Ladner Trunk in 99, is normally where we transfer patients. And can you tell them not to back in, please? Okay, they're in. All right. Tell them not to put the door down because that will cause noise. Thank you. So right now we're working with North Whatcom and Ferndale to bring their ambulances into Canada to get our patients from us and take them all the way to the hospital so we can return to Point Roberts since we only have 1 ambulance at this point.
So they can't, right now, they can't go from, say, Ferndale all the way here.
Well, they would have to if we transport all the way down and we drop a second call. So the problem with that is what I'm trying to not happen is it takes 50 minutes for an ambulance to get here to care for somebody.
Yeah.
So that's what I do not want to be happening. So that's why we go 20 minutes away to Checkpoint Bravo and we're 20 minutes to respond back versus 45, 50 minutes from an ambulance having to come all the way here from the county side, the Blaine side. If they're available. I mean, if North Whatcom is out, if both 869, 861, and 863 are already on calls, then I'm pulling 842, and that comes from Grandview and out by the refineries, basically is where that comes from. If they're not available, then the next available ambulance would be from Northwest and Smith or Church Road. If neither one of them are available, then I'm pulling from Bellingham at that point. So we're at a minimum, we're 50 minutes away from an ambulance unless it's coming out of Blaine, which will be around 40 minutes to get here. But in a cardiac arrest, that's not going to work. Right. So that's why I'm trying to work with North Whatcom and with Ferndale to get that loaner in order to give us that capacity of 2 ambulances again. So go ahead. Yeah. So I've updated, I've let Airlift know that we may be requesting them above and beyond of what our normal request would be. And that is to be a transport unit for us as well. Now that becomes a difficulty if the patient doesn't reach the level of criticality, right? Or acuity, I should say acuity, to where they would need to be airlifted by Airlift. So Kaiser Permanente is a insurance company that I get an email from and request of documents to prove that they needed to go by Airlift Northwest. And so it's just not as easy. I may cost the patient some hardship if I'm not choosing to airlift them at the appropriate time for their acuity of emergency, the level of. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I've had to use airlift before to transport off. I've had to use airlift before to transport off felons from Point Roberts because now their acuity is not reaching criticality, but they're not allowed to transfer through Canada, even in our ambulance. And we have no way to bring them a boat in or an airplane in. So I have had to use airlift in the past to transport those that have a criminal history that doesn't allow them to be admissible into Canada. So, but usually those individuals are on state assistance or something like that. And the state, they're not on private insurance coverage. So I normally don't have a problem there. So, any other questions?
Any from the audience?
I don't think so. And I'm not sure if I don't have anything in the chat at this point. So, I'll bring up, we do have a resolution. If you do agree to go forth with the purchase of a new ambulance, I have a resolution that we need to review as well, but I'm going to go over the pamphlet that you have in front of you, which is the unit that we would be acquiring, and go through that process with you and explain what the unit is, show you pictures of it, and then the cost, obviously, and then we'll go into the resolution if that's okay. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Sorry. So can everybody see this online? Okay,
Yes.
so this is a type 1 ambulance. There's 3 types of ambulances. There's type 1, there's type 2, and type 3s. The ambulance that was involved in the collision is a type 3. And we're wanting to move to a type 1 potentially. And the reason why is because this is 4-wheel drive. We don't have access to the 4-wheel drive capability in an ambulance. We do in a fire truck now. Engine 58, our mini pumper, is a 4-wheel drive engine. But I don't know, Bill, can you tell me if we've ever had a 4-wheel drive ambulance here? So this would be our first capable 4-wheel drive ambulance. And the reason for that is that we do have some hills here. We've been in some pretty heavy snows here in the past. And I would like to have the capability of being able to respond anywhere in Point Roberts, including Snake Hill and Boundary Bay Hill, if necessary, and some other areas, especially deep. We've been okay with 2-wheel drive in the past, but we've also been in positions where we've had to put the plow on our brush truck. And Bill told me the story the other day where Assistant Chief Shields was plowing the road in front of him as the ambulance was going down the road. So this is an option for us. This is immediately available. I could have this within 2 weeks. There's been an offer. We could potentially save around $7,000. That's a rough number. If they didn't ship it to us and we actually flew out to get it and drive it back. So there's a cost savings there potentially too. So I'll go through this document. So this is a type 1. The manufacturer of this is Medix, MEDIX, and it's a subsidiary of Hughes Fire Equipment, which they have a brand new facility down in Mount Vernon. So if we purchase this, all of our maintenance, all of our repairs, anything that we would need to be done would be done down in Mount Vernon. They would come to the Blaine border, pick it up from us, and then they would take it back down and they'd bring it back to the Blaine border and we'd pick it up and bring it home. So that's what we have by going with this manufacturer. I've also looked at North Star, which is down in Chehalis. They don't have an apparatus that is conducive to the layout on the inside that we're desiring to have at this point, and their rig is longer. So this rig allows us, it's a 153-inch box. I forget the the nose, the bumper to bumper. It's around 23 feet, I believe 23 and change. But getting this rig allows us to keep the same what we have now, meaning we could have this in front and 85802 in back. If we went with the North Star, which is the same cost, the North Star doesn't allow us to have 85802 in back. It's really, really tight. There's no room to walk around the rigs at that point.
Is this a new?
This is brand new. This is considered a demo unit because it's been around and being showed to people. And it's not custom. So this is coming off the factory floor. So it's already been, we can't change the compartmentation on the inside of this. Where if we went custom, that's right now it's 2 years. It's 2 years for a custom build. And that's the same for basically an engine too. So this is obviously the inside of the cab. I'll enlarge this for people. This is the back here. So it has captain's chairs. What we don't currently have is a 4-point harness system for our people. We only have lap belts for our people in our ambulances. And I believe 85802 has lap belts in the back. 85802, the one we're in right now, is a 1991 ambulance. We bought it off the showroom floor. It has no airbags up front for the safety of our firefighters, any type of airbags. And obviously it doesn't have the safety systems, in back. It still has the leaders. We have hooks that come down from the ceiling, like an Army ambulance, to where we could put a carry cot up above that with a person technically hanging above a person below them. So ambulances there's no components of ambulances being built like that except for the military, at this point. So just pictures of the back. So that would be a bench seat with 2 seats with harnesses. Now those harnesses allow us to put those over ourselves and they follow us, right? So they come out of the wall so we can move with that harness, and then they act as a seatbelt restraint system if we get into an accident too. So these are beyond lap belts. We have the netting. They actually add that. So that's, if we are on the bench, it helps us not slide past the bench. So if we have an abrupt stop or something like that, I call it a people catcher because it's designed to stop you from going further. This is the other side of the ambulance. So this is across from the bench seat. They call this a CPR seat. So the person here would be the CPR person doing compressions. It also has the 4-point harness for protection of the interior people. This is just a view from the back doors. So the gurney would be in the center there. The mounting system would be in the center as well. And then we have access basically to both sides of the patient with that mounting. This is the bid. So the total cost of the apparatus, it's a $250,000 apparatus. This is average for an ambulance now. Type 3s are around 230 to 240,000, which is a shorter front like 858 was. Sales tax and everything else, the total comes to $272,221.95. This is just general information about that purchase as well. Obviously, this is going to be part of this meeting and public documents. But the ambulance down at Chehalis is $250,000 as well. If I want to get it in red, it's $251,000. They charge me an extra $1,000 to get red versus white. This is a white ambulance. So that would be the purchase price. I'm sure there's going to be some fine tuning to that. So that'll be plus or minus, but that is the price I have been given at this point from Hughes Fire to purchase that ambulance that was just shown. Just to give some perspective here, this is a type 2 ambulance. This is called a van. You see a lot of privates utilize this to do transports between hospitals in big cities and rural. There's other, fire agencies that have these that, go 911 and everything else. This would be a good backup for us if we decide to also get upgrade 1991 ambulance. This would be all-wheel drive, so it would handle the weather here. Obviously, all-wheel drive is safer anyway. But this could be a backup for us. And then to show you what 858 was, 858 was this style. So this is a type 3 ambulance. So that's the difference between longer nose. So the type 1 is 4x4. Type 3s are not 4x4, they're rear-wheel drive. Type 2s can be rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So now if the insurance company decides to remount and refurbish 858, then we'll have an ambulance like this back. Okay, as our second out. But it'll have a brand new chassis underneath it, and the box will be fixed and everything else, depending on where the damage value goes to, and if it supersedes 75% of the value. So that shows you that. Any questions from the commission?
How far into this are they, what type of information can we get back
From whom?
from the insurance?
Right now they're in investigation. They haven't even looked at the ambulance yet.
How long?
I'll let Tony Kelly's on this meeting too. He's our insurance agent. So I'll bring him in on this to discuss the insurance side of it and the process of that. But do I have any questions on anything that I've presented so far? Okay. So Tony, I'll bring you in at this point, if you would.
Good afternoon, Chief Carlton, honorable commissioners, Patty, and all attendees, and especially my hats off to and my heartfelt out for Georgina. And we feel the same also about all the folks involved. That's our first concern. So thank you all. To get back to the insurance side of it, I believe the question was how fast the insurance company will, or what the timeline looks like for the insurance company to appraise, complete their investigation, appraise the damaged vehicle, and then come up with an adjusted value and to see if it's a total loss or partial loss. So, and that's the repair or replacement part. But I did speak with Chip Jeremy, who is a claims examiner, and we had a casual conversation today for about 20 minutes regarding the urgency and the need. And convincingly, there's some logistics involved, but also reality is this process alone, just the appraisal, adjustment, and to come to terms with what the amount of the loss is based on the damage and such, is he estimated about 30 days. So it's a ways out. And from experience with other agencies that have had ambulances repaired, and I believe they were the North Star model, 4 months was on the inside. I've seen it go out as long as 6 months. So the timeline of repairing, replace, decision, probably about 30 days. If it was going to be replaced, then it's, you're kind of at finding the organization that can repair it, which I think you have that. And then just the time it takes for parts and repairs to actually take place. So that's an estimate that both Chip and I, as far as the timeline goes, both Chip and I agreed that 30 days sounds okay inside the appraisal, and then the determination, and then we're off to actually a settlement, and then you're making decisions on what you're going to do to maintain coverage. I mentioned to him all of the above that you had previously mentioned in this meeting, and I think that we're still in the, as we well know when we're talking to folks and we're not aware of all the facts, but we're conducting an investigation and of course cooperating with authorities. But frankly, there again, Chip was pretty rest assured that over the years, he's a senior adjuster, and he said these things take significant amount of time. Any other questions or concerns?
Okay, no, none here. So I think we're good. Tony, do you have anything else to add?
We went along, and I'm gonna take the high road on, talking about what the relationship is there with, the power load, gurney, as we know it, the striker model. And, he hadn't had a lot of good experiences with those things remaining in service. So I think, be prepared for that. If they do their investigation and accept the facts, as in your own words, at least in the video that I saw, it was definitely a very impact that's going to get reviewed, and so they're going to try and determine what that did to that striker.
So to follow up on that, they're gonna look, if the investigation team from Stryker doesn't decide to come out, then they've written it off. And that'll have to be added back into the loss dollar amount, because we'll have to replace it and get a new one for the next ambulance at this point.
We had
So,
link-
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, the issue with getting a loaner from North Whatcom and Ferndale. Depending on how this process goes, 30 days is hopefully going to be a easy time frame to them to do the adjustments on the vehicle, get us some information, and then we have the discussions, what happens from that point forwards. With vehicles being remounted and refurbished at this point, we're looking, 6 months is probably a good time to look at with everything else that's being done out there in the industry, getting parts like Tony stated, but at least 6 months. North Whatcom has had a couple ambulance refurbished, and it's taken up to that, at least for them to get refurbished. We can't hang on to the loaners for 6 months. So the loaner that we'll get from North Whatcom is a 4-wheel drive loaner, and they utilize it during the winter. So when the weather starts getting bad, they're going to need that back. But if 2 of their ambulances go down, they're going to need that loaner back before then as well, because those systems are much busier than we are. So same thing with District 7. I believe they have 2 reserve ambulances, I believe, potentially 3. But we're always going down. Our ambulances are being switched out because of issues and things like that down at District 7. So I don't want to put anybody at a apparatus disadvantage. That's a 4,000 or 5,000 run a year agency versus our 500 runs a year up here. So hopefully I'll have that discussion by Friday with them to see if they even have a rig available. And then we need to discuss that with the insurances. Where's the agreement? We have to come up with an agreement, because if we have a collision with a loaner, then who covers the loaner? And I would assume ESIP would, because those agencies are covered by CIAW, which is another insurance provider, I believe. So it becomes a bottle of pickles, at that point too, getting a loaner from somebody and being responsible for that loaner as well. So
What is your thinking at the moment, the best avenue to travel?
well, it's on the capital facilities plan to replace aid 5802 anyway. So to move forward with the purchase, right? This ambulance is going to be a 15 to 20 year ambulance, at least for the chassis, with the amount of mileage we put on the ambulances in general. And not knowing the process and the issues that can happen in processes like this that will delay and delay and delay. We just don't know when we're going to get that check, or if they're going to replace or repair aid 58. So regardless of what happens with aid 58, we need a new ambulance.
So if we get a new ambulance and then they say we're gonna have to repair it 58.
Yeah.
How, I mean, we have the new ambulance, and so we'll have to get rid of
So 858 would be 85802, the current white ambulance would be repurposed or surplused at that point, because 858, the refurbished 858, the one that got in the wreck, if that's refurbished and remounted, then that would become our backup to the new ambulance. So we'd still have two ambulances. But 85802 doesn't, I mean, if they would have been in 85802, my gut feeling is that they potentially they would have flipped in 85802 because it's not as heavy, it's not as big of a track system, and I think they would have flipped. Yeah, and to go back to the graces that were given that night that it didn't flip, Georgina didn't have any further injuries on that. And that my member that was the attendant in back, Trent Viant, I think he's online today, and to Terry Scott, that they both came out of this as well with some bumps and bruises and sore backs and things, but that nobody died, including the other agency that was involved. It could have been so much worse. And Terry's an EVIP instructor, and it goes to his driving skill sets, to be able to handle that, because it was missing the entire right front wheel assembly. Everybody, I think, has seen the picture of the ambulance, and it was very bad. So they were headed southbound on 99, and by the time it was done, they flipped 180 degrees and were headed northbound in the southbound lanes. And that it's very fortunate that the ambulance didn't flip with Georgina in the back and stuff. So
180 degrees.
180 degrees. So they were headed northbound in the southbound lanes, is what I understand. Yeah. So my recommendation is to move forward. So either way, we're going to be purchasing a new ambulance, and at this point, it's ahead of. We didn't plan this, and we have the reserve capacity to do it. This ambulance is ready to go. We can have it in 2 weeks. Individual here is already offered to fly out first class, and that would be Bill Skinner sitting behind you, to go out and pick it up and drive it home. But I still need to discuss that with them, right? What is the true savings of that? We have to believe that that's going to be a few thousand miles that are going to be put on it, driving it from Syracuse, New York to here. And I don't think I would want to send Bill alone. I potentially would want to send two people, just so there could be two drivers coming back. Is that a cost savings? Of course. Plane tickets and that, it's cost savings. I don't think it would be anywhere close, $3,000 versus $7,000, if that's the true cost of shipping it here. So that has to still be discussed. So the 272,000 that I showed you, that's probably going to have some movability depending on if we decide to go out and get it, then that could potentially be reduced to that. So the number that we choose today of, I don't exceed a number, right, to that, but we can put the 272,000 in the resolution. And then if it becomes less than that, then I believe that I let you know, I inform the commission of that, or at the next regular scheduled meeting, I inform the commission of what the true cost was. Obviously, when we get back here, we're going to have to put new radios in it. So that's going to be at 10 grand to put new, not portable, but mobile radios in the ambulance, because we have to have a radio in the front and back of that ambulance. We're going to have to decal it out. So that's going to take time. And that's putting, all of our emblems on it and what's required by the state, how it's supposed to be listed. And then titling it. We'll have to go get our tags and everything else. So that's going to be added to the cost. But that's on any vehicle. So it's not special to this one. That's any vehicle.
So do you need a motion to include all of that or just the 200?
No, I believe right now the 272,000, and then the additional, that's extra stuff.
Which we
but-
can add when we know what it is.
And that could come out of general budget
Yeah.
as well, my 858 line item budget per se. That's already in our division expenses. I think we have plenty of movement there to absorb those things into the current budget. but the purchase price of 272,000. And again, that might flex a little bit, especially if they go, well, it's really 8.2% sales tax versus 8% or whatever they put in here. So I'm just letting you know, we can put the 272,000 with the caveat and the understanding that it might flex up or down depending on transportation, how we get it here. And then what the final numbers come out to be.
Okay, so we could do the 272 with the opportunity to increase that another 10,000? Or you don't want to put a number on that?
I don't think I want to put a number on that because again, the titling and stuff like that, the deckling can be handled within our divisional budget as is. So that doesn't need to be part of the purchase price.
Chief, I'm just gonna take off, that's okay.
Oh. Georgina, thank you so much for being here. I will. I will.
Thank you.
And it's great to see you up and around. Yeah. Purple looks good on you, Terry. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I would entertain a motion that with this,
Okay.
yeah, they're shaking their heads. We'll,
Do you want to move forwards with the purchase
yes.
of this,
The-
the 8 units? Yeah, okay.
Or 272,000.
Yeah, and change. So, yeah, okay.
You said the resolution already prepared,
There is.
so this would be a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll bring up the resolution. Okay.
That's what I need. Oh,
Okay, so this is the resolution. So I'll read we don't have a number. We need to validate what number resolution. Patty believes that this is going to be resolution 1 of this year. But I haven't been able to validate that. We need to get into, if we want to validate it real quick, we can. So it's going to have resolution 2024-1 or 2024-2 or 3, whatever it is. We don't believe we've done a resolution this year in 2024, or that they're, Patty, you believe that you might have had one for a check?
No, I'll be
The old.
So you're believing it's resolution 1, Patty?
presenting a resolution at next month 24-01, but if Linda could double check. Thank you.
Yeah, so if that's the case, this would be 01, and then the resolution that she's presenting at the next meeting would be 02 and 03 and 04, etc. So what we're going into is an emergency procurement due to the unforeseen loss of our primary ambulance from this district. And that allows us to forego the regular laws requiring a bidding process to be put into place. So we're able to supersede that by classifying this as an emergency, which obviously it is. I want to go back to having loaners. The strain on the system that provides, if we have to have them always come to Point Roberts, is extensive to the rest of the system. And that's why it's so important to try to get this handled as quickly and as efficiently and effectively as possible to get another rig here as soon as possible for this agency. And the loaners, again, are just that. They could ask for them back at any given time. And when the winter hits, North Whatcoms would definitely have to go back to North Whatcom. And with how busy District 7 is, I would assume that they would potentially be asking for it back too. And then we would have to, at a moment's notice, drive that back down and give it to them. So we might have a loaner, but 2 weeks is better than 6 months, right? Or even 3 months when it comes to a potential having a type 3 available to us. So,
It's a safety community, we have to do it.
well, we're unlike anywhere else, right? And that's because of our geographical isolation. Down there, we could absorb it if we were part of the lower mainland, right, of Whatcom County. Yes, Bill.
Could we use the loaner as a backup for the?
Of course, we could use the loaner as a backup to preserve its safety. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great idea. So, and not put it front line, right? So it's going to be outfitted already with supplies and everything else. It's going to already have, we're not going to have to stock it because it's going to be fully stocked anyway. But yes, that's a good point that that would go into reserve capacity. So we would still use 850-802 as primary, our 1991 ambulance. And then if we got a secondary call, while that was transporting down to the hospital, then we would utilize the loaner at that point to, again, great idea to preserve its safety of being out and about on calls. So this is the resolution, declaration of emergency, waiver of competitive bidding requirements. RCW 3904280 provides for the waiver of competitive bidding requirements under enumerated conditions, including 1C, purchases in the event of an emergency. On October 11th, 2024, the district's aid car was involved in an accident and became inoperable. As a result of the loss of this vehicle, the district's ability to respond to emergency incidents is severely compromised and represents an immediate and ongoing threat to life and health of district residents. In order to address this emergency, the district has located a replacement demo unit aid car that will meet the needs of the district and that is available without the 2-year lead time required for new aid cards through Hughes Fire Equipment for a reasonable price. Resolution, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire Protection District Number 5 hereby declares that an emergency exists, waives the competitive bidding requirements, and authorizes the chief to purchase in that space. It would be an aid car for the price of the $272,000 and change. The adopted at an emergency meeting of the Board of Commissioners of Whatcom County Fire District Number 5 on October 16th, 2024, the following commissioners being present and voting. So all 3 of you here, plus the secretary's signature on this. Linda, do you have any issues with this resolution?
I do not, but I had used the word ambulance. Do you specifically want aid car?
I can change it to,
No, you, in the blank space, to authorize the chief to purchase.
well, our legal counsel up here said demo unit
Demo unit
aid
aid
car.
car. Okay.
So I would just put in here to purchase an
Demo
aid,
unit aid car.
yeah, for the price of 272. Yeah. So I'll fill that in and if you're okay with that, then I will fill it in, obviously print it off and for your signatures at the end of this meeting.
Are you, so motion made by, we're
Bridget.
all in agreement?
Motion is made by Virginia, seconded by
Okay,
Commissioner Harper.
second, all in favor, 3-0.
So we'll get so this is resolution 24-01.
Oh, what?
Okay, so I'll change this document once I stop and share view and go from there.
Good.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns or anything?
Curious,
Yes.
because the vehicle has such a higher value than the one we had, is that gonna immediately increase our insurance? Or is that something that's rolled over to next year?
Tony, do you want to handle that?
On the date that you receive it, the insurance should begin, and so technically the answer is yes. Should that other ambulance be a total loss, you can take it off the schedule the day of, I believe it's the day of the accident. If not, it's the day after. So in essence, there would be a credit there, but your value is, as you note, more than 100,000 more. So there's going to be and I would say it would be not well, it would be substantial, but it wouldn't. Some of your other apparatus are far more valuable in the engines and such, and so it's reasonable. Let's put it that way. But yes, it'll affect the premium.
So that'll increase. And in our next review, next September, our next August review, September, we have to look at the agreed upon replacement values for the future. And stuff. We do, the grace is that we have enough in capital reserve to go ahead and make this purchase. And that's a blessing because of our taxpayers and what they've allowed us to put away over the years too. 85802, in lieu of getting a new ambulance, 85802 will still be our backup at that point, and that's our 1991 ambulance. Waiting to find out what is going to be the process, if they're going to fix 858 or if they're going to pay us out for total loss of 858. And then at that point, a new discussion will happen to whether we go to upgrade 85802 at that point with the money that we get from the insurance, if they decide to pay us out for total loss. And decide if we're going to keep 85802 for a period of time as our second backup, or if we're going to upgrade that as well. And that'll be a different discussion probably next year. Because again, 85802 it's pristine on the inside, but it just doesn't offer any airbag or any safety features that the new ambulances do at this point. Well, yeah, it's not. Okay, so events like this bring everything to a head, right? And the number one thing for me is the safety of our personnel and providing them apparatus that will provide better safety features than what we have. None of our, as far as I know, the 1994 engine, nor is our 1991 engine providing the airbag protection inside it as well, where all the new ones do. They have curtain airbags inside the fire trucks now and everything, which none of ours do, except the older two don't, but our 2018, our mini pumper is obviously new and it provides all the safety features on the inside of that pumper. So yes, this brings everything to a head. We don't want things like this to happen, but this was out of our control. We're asking our insurance to get a hold of that, dash cam footage from the other vehicles that is supposedly available. And I want to see that. Right? And for our validation as well. So moving forwards, obviously, we have a capital facilities plan on replacement. We have technically right at 1.2 million in reserve capacity in our investment accounts. We'll have to move some money around, and Patty will be able to explain that process, but it's not an issue to move money around. But we also have other capital purchases that we're making. We're having to utilize some of our funds for the radios, right? We still have probably $70,000-$80,000 of radios that we still have to purchase to replace the ones in our apparatus currently, to upgrade those to the standard that our new portables will be as well. And so this is a bunch of pickles. This throws pickles into the mix, and we have to search through the pickles that we like and what's going to be priorities. Well, obviously, having the best ambulances that we can afford is a priority for our patients and for our public. So,
Okay, anything else that we need to do today?
no, there's nothing else on the agenda, Linda. So what I'll do now, if once the meeting is over, I want to make sure, hang on, there's a chat here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I want to again, yeah, and I want to, Trent Viant was our EMT practitioner in the back, the attendant there. And again, Terry is an amazing member and a safety vehicle driver instructor as well. But Trent told me, you never think this is going to happen, right? I mean, you never think this is going to happen. And, when the vehicle was impacted, he was removed from the bench seat and tossed in another area of the back of the ambulance. But his immediate thought was back to the patient, was back to Georgina. And that was an incredible, right? Because you've just been impacted, you're injured to a degree. But him to be able to focus back on the patients, I want to bring that out and give him applause for that, because some people may lose it, right, when something like this happens, and totally self-conscious and become selfish and concentrate on themselves and forget about the patient. But he went right back to assessing the patient, helping Georgina, and making sure that she was in the best position she could possibly be in after an accident like this. And we train our people, well, but it's hard to train our people to circumstances like this. And again, Trent did an amazing job of continuing his care for Georgina during the time that the medics arrived, and he had to deal with everything else that was going on. So I want to thank him for doing that as well.
There's something that we should present him with a.
Sure, I'm personally going to pay off their mortgage. No, that's not, that's, that's not gonna happen. But, of course, that we have our volunteer recognition coming up, and, to spoil it, there'll be some recognition for him and for Terry and stuff. And, I plan on inviting Georgina and Terry, her husband, to our volunteer recognition banquet too. So, yeah, so that's where we're at. But the grace is that nobody lost life, right? That's the complete grace. And we're extremely fortunate that nobody was critically injured or severely injured in this accident. So, yeah.
Minimal scratches.
Yeah. Okay, we're good to go.
Chief, may I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
I just had a question regarding invoicing,
Yeah.
and if we know about when we will be invoiced or if payment is due upon pickup. I know that we have our special meeting and then our regular meeting, but they are a couple weeks out.
Yeah, so I'll end up doing this through contract and through PO or a PO
Okay.
with them, and I'll be reaching out to them after this meeting.
Wonderful. Okay, thank
So
you.
I'll make sure you're part of that process, Patty.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Chief.
So-
Anything else from anybody?
Did you have Alex?
Question,
Yeah.
given that the model that's been agreed to buy is a late model, do you know if the infotainment system is compatible with Android Auto?
Yeah, so it's a 2024 chassis. So it's a 2024 vehicle. It's just considered a demo. It's brand new, but it's considered a demo because it's been demoed. So it's not a custom unit. So at this point, so yeah, all of that will be, it has the same capability as our 550 engine out there. So everything will be capable of that. Thanks for the question.
Adjourn us at 4:58 p.m.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody, and all the visitors today. Tony, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you all.
Thank you.